Are you just gonna film with me today? I wanted to make a video today talking about emotional intelligence. Goodbye. And about how important it is to start early when it comes to teaching your children about their feelings and being able to express them. We are in a time where a lot of unpacking is being done, and it is absolutely amazing. Mental health and trauma is something that you can actually talk about. It's not as taboo as it used to be. So I think it's the perfect time to start that with my child. I've always, from when he was really little, placed emphasis on him understanding his feelings. My parents did amazing in raising me, but I don't feel like I ever, like, aside from like what you learn in school, I don't think I was ever taught in depth what emotions were. Only when you experience certain things do you get them, but at the same time I think there is many opportunities in life to teach these things to our children. And for my son specifically, I feel like he's gone through a lot of transitions in his life at a very young age, just because of the way that things have kind of played out. For he's just gonna be jumping around this whole time, just so you know. This is Gru. But because of all the changes that we as a family have gone through, it's inevitable that it is going to take an emotional toll on him in one way or another. And I would much rather have my child grow up with tools and the freedom to express himself, rather than feeling as though he's carrying baggage from his childhood and all these unprocessed feelings into his adulthood, because I feel like that's where a lot of us are right now. I don't know if it's like that for everybody else, but for me, I've done a lot of unpacking in the last few years and taking apart certain experiences that I wish in the present moment when they occurred, I was able to work on that, rather than carrying it with me into other situations and other relationships and friendships and things like that. He just looks like a piece of like raw meat behind me. He wants to kill birds and stuff, and that's a normal feeling to cats. But yeah, for myself, I've been blessed. My child he's always been very chill. Like, everyone describes him as just being chill, nonchalant. I've never seen him have a tantrum, like, in his entire life. He's never had like a meltdown in a store. He's never argued with me over things or like threw a fit. That's just not him. Once he was able to walk and talk and really start to digest things, I focused on making sure he truly understood what emotions were. I'm not a timeout mom. If you are, that's cool. Whatever works for you works for you. For me, when it came to teaching my son right from wrong and different emotions, I did a thing called reflection time. Whenever a situation came up where you're overwhelmed with a specific emotion, whether it's anger, sadness, frustration, whatever it may be, I would say, okay, you need a minute to reflect. Why don't you go sit down, and then you can tell me in as many words as you can what you were feeling and why you were acting that way, and then I'll be able to tell you what that feeling is. So then next time when you feel it, you know how to deal with it, instead of getting loud or getting impatient. And I do it for myself too. There would be times where if I had a really long day at work and I'm getting the mommy, 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 I'm like, yo, pause. I need reflection time. I need to like take a step, because right now I'm feeling frustrated and it has nothing to do with you, but we need to regroup when I'm not feeling frustrated. And I would let him go do something fun, play with his toys, tinker about, and I would just take a minute for myself to breathe and digest the fact that, like, yeah, I had a long day, and I'm not gonna bring it into his. We are not a family that projects anything onto each other. So it starts with us. We don't really do it as much now because I don't feel like it's as needed, but when he was younger, definitely getting him into the groove of understanding his own feelings and getting him comfortable with expressing them in a way that actually works in his favor versus creating conflict was a big thing. I feel like because I've had the opportunity to unpack and figure out how my past and my childhood has affected me, it allows me to put certain pieces into play that I wish I had as a child. One way that I've loved to use as a tool to like heal and express myself, not even express myself, allow it to express for me, I don't even know if that makes sense, but it's music. Music has been something ever since I was so small that I've had such a deep love for. There is a song or an album for every single emotion that I have. I grew up with parents that were fairly younger, so the music that I was exposed to was something so beautiful and so diverse. Like my dad was into like Tupac, Biggie, Eminem, all of that. So when it came to rage and like taking apart certain concepts like oppression and things like that, early on I actually got a grasp on those things, which is crazy. I don't make music. I will never make music. I can't sing, I can't do diddly, but I have a deep appreciation and understanding. So for my son, since I know that that's a good way for me to process how I feel, I use that tool of my own to pass on to him. There's obviously ways that you can like filter what your children listen to, but I've never really restricted him when it came to that. Even when there's like cussing, and I would much rather him learn certain words through that, and then we can have open conversations about like what the F word means and like what context and whatever else. It's actually opened so much dialogue between us. Of course, my camera died and I got sick of my hair being down, so this is where we're at. Being the nutty mom that I am, I curated a playlist from Time Now that's just all the songs that kind of capture the emotions that my son has been able to associate with them. There's like anything that you can think of. His favorite, whenever he's feeling really angsty, angry, his go-to is Scars by Papa Roach, and we will belt that out. And after that, he's cool, he's calm. Whatever he was feeling, gone. He loves Kid Cudi, Kanye West. True Love is one by Kanye West that he's like always singing. It's funny, but I've allowed music to be a way for him to also express himself. If later on in life he wants to do something with that in a professional sense, cool. If it's just like me, where you get the full enjoyment and use it as a way of letting go of certain things, that's great as well. And another thing that we love to do is get into nature. I feel like the way God has created the world, there are so many different things that you can look at in life that in its own way mirrors our emotions and the things that we go through. And to anyone, it might sound crazy. For me, like a very simple one would be water, like large bodies of water. I feel like I can see so many similarities between the human emotions and large bodies of water. And I guess I can like elaborate a little bit with that. When I first went through my separation and things started to get really tough, I would just go take my son sometimes for a drive down by the lake, because here we don't have the beautiful ocean, we live in Canada. It was February, so the lake was like almost frozen over at times because of the high winds. It would be so chaotic, like crashing against the rocks. And looking out at the water, I felt like I was looking inwards. Like I could see everything I was feeling was just like that feeling of everything being thrown around, like the anger, the aggression, the frustration, things that like you don't want to, I don't know. A lot of the things that we as human beings choose to repress, nature has its own way of just allowing it to happen. And then it's funny because by summertime, things had settled, the transitions had happened, and it was like night and day. Boy, sorry, he distracts me. Like seeing how calm the water was, once again, was a reflection of my life. Now when he's having a bad day, we go down by the water, we collect some rocks, we throw them as far and as hard as we can, watch them sink and let them stay there. We don't have to take them back, it's gone. The feeling will pass and it is gone. We don't have to hold on to those things, because when we hold on, that's when it starts to seep out in other areas of our lives, and that's not cool. So that's another way I feel like nature, even when you look at the trees, like when I was little, I would watch them dancing in the wind, and yeah, I feel like God really did something special. So teaching your children that as well is very important, because I feel like when they don't get to express themselves and they don't even realize that they're holding on to things, later on in life it comes back and it hurts them. It can manifest into such horrible things that I've seen time and time again through addiction and really horrible habits. When you pay attention, it's very easy to see. Like I feel like at times I'm walking around looking at children that never really had what they needed to function. And I don't know, it's weird, but you can see people's wounds if you really pay attention. It starts from when we're really little, so I'm trying to avoid that as much as I can, and I've introduced him to a lot of things. I was very open with him when I was going to therapy. I gave him a bit of a background on what it was all about. We do different art therapy. You can honestly find videos on YouTube. There's all kinds of stuff, like we fill balloons up with paint, whip it at stuff, like draw our feelings. I'm all about getting things out in a way that's super creative and tailored to how he feels. I find it's very cathartic for me because I'm working through things that I didn't even realize were problems for me while I'm watching him do the same. It's such a blessing. I'm very grateful as well because my educational background, there was a strong foundation in youth studies, child psychology, general psychology, philosophy. I can talk more about that in another video because this is not about me, but I've really learned a lot. Even though right now I'm not actively working in the field that aligns with my educational background, seeing it kind of translate into my life is super cool, and I don't take it for granted. He makes me so proud every single day. Every single day. Whether it's him being like, "Mom, I'm mad, put on Karma by Waka Flocka," and I'm like, okay. Or anything. Music's always on in our house. Energies are always high. When I'm cooking, music's playing. When we're eating, music's playing. Sometimes he just says, "Mom, can we go for a drive for an hour?" And I'm like, okay, cool. However you need to clear your head, we do it. Windows down and just let everything out. I feel like there's not much direction with this video either, but I like when these thoughts come into my mind to get them out. That's my way of processing too. As parents, it is really important to make sure we are setting the right example for our children and setting them up to live a life where they can be their authentic self, and it starts with actually allowing them to be their authentic selves. We can't just mold them into whatever we want them to be. That plays a part when it comes to like making sure they're safe and everything like that, but he's my greatest creation in so many ways. While he's creating his story and he's creating his life, it's totally immersed with mine, like just an extension of myself, but something totally different and totally abstract as well that I will never take credit for. It's all him, but I will give him whatever tools he needs to make the most beautiful, magical life that he possibly can. If you don't have kids, tap into your inner child and work on those things, because by the time that you do, hopefully you have the tools to give them, to pass down onto them, and find that structure. I think the idea of really understanding emotions came when I started doing shadow work. If you don't know about shadow work, I definitely recommend going, you can Google like shadow work questions, things like that. I have a journal that's like dedicated specifically to that. As human beings, we're only really taught to embrace the positive emotions like happiness and joy and all of that. I feel like we do a disservice to ourselves by choosing to limit ourselves when it comes to expressing those other feelings that we have, because if we don't acknowledge that they're there, we're not acknowledging our full selves. And being able to find ways to feel the negative as well and process it in a way that doesn't harm others. Like, no matter what, you're gonna feel angry. I'm a very happy person. I'm very, very happy-go-lucky, nonchalant, very spontaneous. I just go with wherever life takes me, honestly, which it works for me. But as much of like a little ray of sunshine I am, there are clouds and there are rainy days. I'm human. So knowing how to express the bad and acknowledge the bad instead of holding on to it, it's a big deal. Yeah, I don't know, bit of a rant, bit of a ramble, but it is what it is. I think it's really important to allow children to understand emotions in their full capacity. Allow your children to explore who they are authentically without feeling like we have to mold them into carbon copies of what society wants them to be. I make these videos for my son because one day I want him to grow up and understand why I do certain things that make me a bit of a nutty mom and whatever else. But this is just me. And I love him with my entire being. He is amazing. And it's really important to show up for our children the way that we would for our younger selves if we had the chance. Okay, that's all for today. Bye.